The child will go to school. You are asking them who was the first king of Kenya, and this child must cram who was the first
What
king of
happened
Kenya.
this year?
The Ngoni migrations from Ghana to where Mau. This child must cram
Yeah.
because that's critical thinking. And most of
Yeah.
children with learning disabilities, they can't cram that.
Yeah.
And that means our education system has been punishing these children.
We have cases like Jamal, a young boy who was in Koboko. I just can't forget the picture of that boy in my mind. A child with hydrocephalus who was not moving, who could not access the home learning centers because the parents were having trouble. You have to ferry him. Every day there is a session at the home learning center. So it's either the grandmother or the mother or the younger siblings to take him. Sometimes they get tired of it. And then when this boy got the chair, you should know the first thing he said. He asked for a pen and a book. And he said, Sukulu, Sukulu, dancing around, very happy. It goes to show that even these children actually want to go to school, but they are limited. They are impeded from going to school because of the probably mobility challenges.
Disability is substantial functional limitation, and the limitation is caused by different impairments ranging from sensory, the mental, then the physical, but more so the environmental. So I can have one arm, one leg, short, brown, dark. What matters is whether the environment, whether the community around me is able to appreciate the way I am and support me to use whatever I have to shine.
On 3rd December, Uganda joined the rest of the world to celebrate the International Day of Persons with Disability. And about 1.3 billion people are significantly people with disability. And according to the United Nations Organization report, it shows that 16% of the world population are people with disability. And in Uganda, it's 16.5% of the population. So where does this leave us to know what is being done for the people of disabilities? Do we know the policies? Do you know the organizations that are helping to see that it is conducive and they receive the right ways, and they can work in the right places, they can get the right education and everything that every normal person gets? So today we're here to talk about this, and trust me, this is the platform for you to learn and get to know more about disability inclusion. And I'll let my guests introduce themselves and we shall roll into this conversation.
Good morning. Prosper Mhumuza is my name. I work as the Commissioner, Disability and Elder Affairs, Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development.
Thank you so much.
My name is Nairobi Joyce. I work with LABE, that is Literacy and Adult Basic Education, and I am the Communications Manager. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As we've heard from our two guests, it gives you a broader understanding that we have the right people who are going to inform us of what is needed to be understood when it comes to disability inclusion. But as I'm going to start off with the commissioner, I'll let him give us a brighter aspect of why he chose to do what he's doing right now.
Personally, when I was doing a short course way back 10 years ago, so 20 years, 2004, I was in this community in Iganga, Nazigo sub-county, attached there as I did my postgraduate diploma in community-based rehabilitation for persons with disabilities. I was allocated 6 parents of children with disabilities, but having done a quick movement around the sub-county, there were over 15 families in the same sort of locality. So I told my supervisor, no, I want to support 15, not 6. And I tried. My supervisor told me, no, you can't, because the burden is big and you need to support. But I tried informally to follow up all these 15. These were children with disabilities ranging from cerebral palsy, autism, Down syndrome, hydrocephalus, spina bifida, and some of them had polio. But what was complex for the families, all of them, all the 15, was that early diagnosis was a problem. So a child has cerebral palsy, is just there, not standing. He's supposed to be standing, is not standing. He has Down syndrome, is just there on the floor. He has hydrocephalus, they are seeing this big head. And everyone is like, oh, who bewitched this family? So a whole 15 households, all of them looking at one cause of child disability being bad omen and being witchcraft. None of the 15 was looking at the medical part of it. All of them were looking at the environment and witchcraft and bad omen from God because someone did something during pregnancy and the like. So right away, whenever I could sleep during that internship program, I could say, oh my God, how do I make one of these parents smile? There was this one lady who was hiding the baby for 3 years inside the bedroom because he didn't want the neighbors to look at the baby, given that he knew what it meant by condemning her. And the baby had cerebral palsy. I think had the combination of cerebral palsy and Down syndrome. And I dug, I remember well digging with this lady around the compound, trying to convince her because the community knew that she had a baby, but no one had seen the baby. So I suspected that the baby has some complication. Fast forward, after 2 days of trying to dig with her and not understanding what this stranger is doing with her, created rapport, and she showed me the baby. The baby, indeed, according to the chart, how the child is supposed to be growing, she was not. The child was just crawling on ground, not eating, a bit malnourished. And we walked a journey until this baby was taken to the hospital, Mbale, and all this. And I'm happy this baby actually now is studying and he has grown up. So
Wow.
it keeps touching me. And that's why I keep urging people outside there, including my colleagues in the studio, that what you do to a parent of a child with disability or what you do to a child with disability pays a lot, pays in wonders. It doesn't matter how small,
Sure.
but if you reach this mother, talk to them, how to cope, how to be resilient, I can assure you the dividends are so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Commissioner. That has been a well starter of emotions for me. I don't know what Madam Joyce you think of it.
As a person who is working with Labe, which organization is really trying to reach out to these children in very far off communities,
Sure.
rural communities, refugee settlements, to also see that these children are also included in the education. Again, that story touches me very much. I also like to say that we definitely have a memorandum of understanding with the ministry. And so having a person who is talking about that passionately goes to show me that what Labe is doing is actually not only for general, we are in the right place, holding hands with the right people.
And going back to Mr. Commissioner, what steps has the ministry taken to ensure that the national policy on disability is effectively implemented in rural areas, just like how Madam Joyce has been stating that their work is more to the rural areas and the children?
So when it comes to rural areas, we have talked to all partners, including World Bank and donors that support the government of Uganda. We don't want to see more schools like we did in the colonial times, which are not accessible.
True.
So we want to see all schools, and we are happy that most of the schools being built have ramps, have all of these that it takes to do disability inclusion. Inclusive health, want to thank Ministry of Health. All regional hospitals now are having specialists that can handle neuro difficulties among children. We had problems we only had Mbale, we had Entebbe and Murago hospitals, but now services have been decentralized to Gulu, to Mbarara and Fort Portal. So if you have a child who has Down syndrome, to really check that this issue of chromosomes, because Down syndrome is caused by a challenge in genetics. This child normally has an extra chromosome. So it's easy now. We have specialists who can quickly diagnose this, and then they tell you how to handle the child. But so the issues of witchcraft, the issues of struggling will now be reduced. So that's inclusive health. When we go to rehabilitation and habilitation, we have many NGOs, and I want to appreciate the civil society now investing in assistive devices. Habilitation, the difference between habilitation and rehabilitation. Habilitation is when a child is born with a disability or is born with an impairment. And what you do then is to strengthen the available skills, strengthen as they are. So that is habilitation. I'm born with something with one arm, so you strengthen one arm and I continue to work.
Okay.
Then rehabilitation is when I acquire a disability after, so you're trying to restore. We have had parents beat their children to think children are naughty, children are jumpy, while the child is actually autistic, is having autism, and we don't know. So we want to continue sensitizing the parents about this, the common symptoms or signs about these children and how we can respond. That's habilitation and rehabilitation. The other pillar that we've been pushing is inclusive employment and economic empowerment. Government of Uganda allocated 16.6 billion last financial year to support groups of persons with disabilities, including parents of children with disabilities. So people come in groups of 5 and they get 5 million, not refundable. They just to really support this. And also for government to demonstrate to the public that these are human beings like any other. Please give a hand. Lastly, is in the area of access to justice. You see this gentleman who is already always signing during the press briefing by police, sign language interpreter. We have worked with different agencies to ensure that we have sign language interpretation services. And we have what we call private-public partnerships, where we want disability inclusion not to be a one-man's show, not to be just a government program, but also the private sector, the non-government organizations. And to wrap it all, the policy, the acts, others have a home. There is what we call Article 35 of the Constitution. Uganda is among the few countries globally that has made disability a constitutional creature. Article 35 of the Constitution is dedicated to affirmative action of persons with disabilities. So across board, universities, health institutions, etc., you go under there and budget and plan, make sure that persons with disabilities are included. If you're a midwife somewhere and you are requesting for supplies from national medical stores, know that there is a lady in a wheelchair who has a right to be pregnant and who is pregnant and who needs to deliver from a modified labor bed. Therefore, do a requisition out of 10 beds, request for 2, which will be on standby for a person or a lady with disability. So the policies are all over the place and they are customized regionally. We continue to disseminate, and I will be bringing copies, or here we have soft copies that I will share, that all of us, we keep reminding people. We go to church every Sunday and to mosques every Friday to repeat the same message. So I want to request the public that we keep disseminating information that disability is not inability. These are people who are created differently. It's not that they are unable, but if we make them unable, they can be unable. And I wanted to quickly define what disability is. Disability is substantial functional limitation, and the limitation is caused by different impairments ranging from sensory, the mental, then the physical, but more so the environmental.
Mm.
So I can have one arm, one leg, short, brown, dark. What matters is whether the environment, whether the community around me is able to appreciate the way I am and support me to use whatever I have to shine. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Commissioner. That has been I believe that every day is a learning day and an unlearning day. So personally right now I didn't know what was the difference between habitual, is it habilitation and rehabilitation, and looks like it's understandable till he broke it down for an understanding. Thank you so much, Mr. Commissioner.
Welcome.
Madam Joyce, what are some key interventions that LABE has carried out to see to it that literacy and education is received to the young people in rural communities? Yes.
Thank you very much. So I will begin by saying that the way LABE does its work is by default inclusive. A case in point is something I started with, the home learning centers. Home learning centers are put within homesteads, literally bringing the school to the home.
True.
Rather than getting these children to go out
to
to
school.
the school. And that is the beginning at ECD level. So where these children would have been challenged in terms of who will accept. You see, the commissioner keeps talking about the community, the environment, and how you appreciate me.
Yeah.
These children are in spaces where the community already knows them.
True.
The different neighbors understand them and know them because they have been with them. So they are given an opportunity to access early childhood services, which they would have otherwise missed. Now, we don't just end at putting the home learning centers and that's the end of the story. We go ahead and do a lot of community sensitization. Again, I'll go back to Commissioner Prosper's example.
True.
This parent was in the community, but because the community was looking at her in a certain way, she was not comfortable to bring out her child and put her there so the child is able to rehabilitate, as it were, to develop those skills. The child kept being hidden. And many of the parents actually do that because of the environment where they are living and how the others look at them. So we do a lot of sensitization, going to the length of getting the Ministry of Gender. Sometimes we go with officials to the community so the people can hear from the proverbial horse's mouth. And they also talk about these different policies, what the rights of parents who have children with disabilities, then have a safety net of some kind. They also feel appreciated. We empower them to the point of them going to the sub-county to demand for the rights of their children, to demand that the schools accept them, to demand that they can access those the funds and services that the commissioner is talking about. We also try and get into the primary school. And at the primary school level, we work with the children we call young facilitators. They are actually already in the primary school, but we talk to them so they can sensitize their fellow children around special needs and disabilities. They use skits. They have child-to-child clubs. So in these clubs, they set up skits around disabilities, which don't only communicate to their fellow children about treating their colleagues well, but even to the teachers.
True.
You see, sometimes it's hard for you to stand and tell a teacher, you're not treating this person well. But if I'm just doing my play, my skit, I am not telling you, sir, you're behaving wrongly. But as we act out what is going on, the teachers are also saying, these kids are seeing us. And some of these things start changing slowly but steadily. The other thing is we don't have a lot of funds to go out and make structures, but the government is working on that. But our role is then to continue pushing and supporting the school structures to make sure that these latrines, which are user-friendly for these children, are there. We also encourage the participation of the parents in the school. I mean, talk about a ramp. We believe that you can use locally available resources. to put up a ramp. We don't have to wait for the government to come in and bring the resources. And yet, the parents can make bricks. How many bricks do we need to make a ramp for those children to be able to use the wheelchairs? So just as we are working with other partners like Katale Cheshire, like Lillian Funds, which is funding a certain project, like Avis, which is helping us with the surgeries, we also work with the communities and the schools to see that we use local resources to, in the meantime, as the government comes in, set up certain structures to help these children to access the schools.
Thank you so much, Joyce. That has been very informative of the different implementations. And I really love the bringing school to home.
Mm.
It creates a bond that we may not have received with our parents while growing up, but it's very necessary, especially when it comes to children living with disabilities. So, Mr. Commissioner,
Yes.
how does the ministry work with organizations like LABE to see that this gap of education and literacy is reduced, especially to children with disability?
Yes. So she has just put it that we work together. So the how, and just to add my voice on what she has spoke to, like now the model they are applying in North and West Nile, it's a model that now we want to work together to document, for instance, and then roll out to other regions across the country, because some of these models we keep innovating, and private sector and civil society have been very good in partnering with government, bring on board innovations. It's an innovation of bringing the classroom in the home or in the compound or in the community. It's a good model that different and not many entities are putting in the disability inclusion, and
Sure.
thereafter will document it and roll it across the country. We open to memorandum of understandings and the Ministry of Gender and the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education, see what government should do and what a partner should do. We streamline, we avoid duplication. So we also use what we call letters of understanding between the government and the partners. We also have coordination meetings. Every year we do what we call an annual symposium on education. Education stakeholders come on board, we discuss. Only this year that we put it up a bit at university. Uganda hosted the first ever East African Inclusive Education Conference, where different stakeholders came on board to share their best practices. So we have annual events, we have quarterly coordination meetings for the disability coordination committees, where we also discuss these issues. But quickly to mention 3 areas where I want the public to really be more, put more emphasis. The teachers of mathematics at different levels, at primary, secondary, at university. We need to develop passion for disability, especially for children with hearing impairment. Teaching mathematics has been a big problem for children with hearing impairments. We see most of these children liking mathematics, but because the teacher of mathematics is not interested in sign language, and the person who knows sign language doesn't know mathematics, we are in a crisis as parents, as duty bearers, and as children. To make an appeal in education, in literacy, arithmetic is very tricky, and for teachers really to come on board, go to Chambogo, either under government sponsorship or private sponsorship, and acquire sign language services, that whenever we are teaching our learners, we are able to include learners with hearing impairment. Children with, especially I want to talk about epilepsy. Ladies and gentlemen outside there, epilepsy is not contagious.
True.
You people in the village say, oh, you fell down, everyone runs away. We are going to get also this condition. No, it's not. Lastly is children who don't hear, they don't see, and they don't speak. Now, most teachers are struggling with the deaf, blind, and speech impairment because we use what we call tactile technology. Tactile technology is where I use my hands with you, Liz, and we speak.
True.
So what we call food maybe is this one. So when I say this, I mean food.
Food.
So it's not something developed in this country, but these children are there. They are there, and we need to work together to ensure that we do disability inclusion, we get them on board, we get more teachers taught in tactile technology. Men, my fellow men who are running away because your wives are giving birth to children with disabilities, kindly, I beg you. It's not the wife who chose. First of all, science shows that the child is, is a combination of the man and woman, to the extent that most of the genes are coming from you, the man. Running away from this lady and to leave her to suffer with a child, and you're thinking that because your mother or this woman was abused by a grandmother somewhere, and that's why the child has this condition, we are deceiving ourselves. Let's support our wives, let's support our ladies to bring up these children. These children deserve better. These children are a replica of us. They are the future president, the future big people in this country. Disability inclusion must be a reality.
Thank you so much, Mr. Commissioner. I feel like Mr. Commissioner is like a full encyclopedia with information that is broken down into the simplest but most educative way. But now, still going back to you, and I think this will still cut across to you, Mr. Commissioner, Madam Joyce. What are those misconceptions that you have faced most in the work that you've been doing to see that you give the information to the people in communities, but also to see that these services of education and literacy reach the young people who are having disabilities?
Thank you very much. I'll begin because I wanted to harp on what Commissioner was talking about. The biggest problem is really lack of information.
True.
If I may say.
Yes.
Just like he has just mentioned how people will run away from somebody who has epilepsy,
True.
saying it's contagious. How the fathers will run away from the mothers
True.
because in their clan, in their tribe, they don't
Tevazara.
produce children like that.
Yeah.
And then how the whole community will stigmatize
That one
this
kid.
woman who gave birth to this one child about how it is their fault. But the biggest challenge we have really is lack of information. People not knowing what causes that. How can it be diagnosed early? How can I support this child from an early age? How can I help to habilitate a disability that is not physical, that does not show?
Yes.
Is really hard for these parents to understand. And they always like what we do in Africa, they always think it's witchcraft.
True.
They send it to the supernatural world and it becomes a witchcraft issue. So struggling to get these parents to accept these facts and to deal with the myth around special needs has been really a challenging thing. But we have tried to deal with it. We make materials like calendars. And on the calendars, for example, we have different disabilities, what causes them, what you can do about them.
Health workers, let's be cautious by mentioning the word that the child is not sick. It is very dangerous. You say the health facility doesn't have, especially a Center 3, you don't have the required scans, you don't have the required technology possibly to do proper diagnosis. So we rather do a referral to the next level than telling the parents that you have checked and the child is not sick. The child is sick, but your diagnostic
Equipment.
capacity has not been able to handle. So why am I emphasizing it? The moment a registered nurse or enrolled midwife says the baby is not sick according to the test, most of these parents now go to the witch doctors.
Yeah.
Because the hospital, the health facility has said the child
The
is
child
not,
is not
they have
sick.
So
failed
it's
to
no
get the
superstition.
disease. That's what they say. We went and they failed to get the disease. So it is because the grandmother didn't talk nicely with the daughter-in-law. It's because of this. It's because you drank some beer during pregnancy. It's all misconceptions now come on board. So the way as duty bearers, if you are not sure of something, consult. If you are not sure during antenatal care, mothers, let's go for antenatal care. If they say take folic acid, please take folic acid. For folic acid, actually, we even need start before conception to avoid hydrocephalus, to avoid spina bifida, most of those conditions. The other one is about teachers. We have a misconception, the difference between special schools and inclusive schools. It's also a challenging one. But what we are promoting as government is a mixed model. That in an inclusive school, let's have a section, a resource center, where at break time, children get extra support in this resource center so that they catch up with the rest of the class. I am a slow learner. I have a learning difficulty. Can the teacher do assessment and confirm that Prosper is a slow learner? Therefore, I can't learn at others' pace. So can I get extra lessons during break time or after? Can my parents be engaged, bringing the classroom to the home, bringing the classroom to the parents? It's not a person with disability. It's not a child with disability to change. It's us, the environment, to change for them to thrive.
Thank you so much, Mr. Commissioner. Yes, please.
Maybe as the commissioner was talking about strategies that can be used, I really wanted to harp on the child to child strategy, because he was talking about inclusive schools and what we are trying to do around there. We have learned, and there's a lot of research that actually shows that children learn better from fellow children,
peer-to-peer.
surprisingly,
It's very
peer-to-peer learning. So we have embraced this very, very much. And apart from these primary school children doing the skits, we also encourage them to have their own groups, like in learning groups in school, but also at the home learning centers, so they can help each other. And especially those ones with disabilities, the ones they label slow learners, they get in a classroom afterwards and they discuss things that they went through during class. And one says, me, I didn't understand this teacher. I don't understand when he's talking. But then the other one is able to explain to this one. Then they go to the home learning centers over the weekends, and we task them to actually support the younger ones, the preschool ones, through play. It's amazing how they are able to even play with the ones who already have disabilities. And the others will open up because these are fellow children. And for them, they don't have those major issues of so-and-so's child who is bewitched and etc. So for them, they will be comfortable playing with them. And through play, they are equally helping these preschoolers to also get fairly ready to transit to primary school, even if they have disabilities.
Thank you so much. As we come to a conclusion of this beautiful, beautiful conversation that I don't want to let go of, I'll start with Mr. Commissioner. What do you think is holding Uganda back from fully realizing inclusive education for children with disability, despite the existing policies that are there?
Cool. So we have several issues. One is overprotection of children with disabilities by parents. So parents, when they look at this child, say, oh my God, this child can't go to school, can't go to church, can't go to pray with others. The condition may worsen. So overprotection has been one of the biggest hindrances. And picking this young soul from someone's household, it's not just a day. This parent needs to be prepared how this child can actually go to the public. So the strategy is tell the parent who is viewing us that these children deserve better. They deserve to be with others. You are not the creator of the disability. You are not the creator of the impairment. Get out the shame out of you. It's not you, it's us to be ashamed, because we need to receive this soul and develop like any other. I didn't talk about the 8 categories of disability. Another issue we see is some people don't know that albinism can also be a disability, and parents are struggling with children with albinism, including in Tanzania, where they actually trade in them by some witch doctors killing them to make money, unfortunately. But I'm happy in Uganda we strong on that, and children with albinism have no big issues. Children with short stature, you find in these hotels when they are making urinal sections, we have had the video as a ministry. Most of the people of short stature, they go there, they the head is at the level of where people do actually urinate. And you find when we are doing these things, we are not thinking about how other people are able differently. The machines for getting money, the ATM machines, these persons of short stature, when they go there to withdraw money, the machine is on there at the level of their head. So they have to ask around, help me, and then they are victims of people taking away actually their money. The other area we see as a challenge, why enforcement is still a bit tricky, is the issue of funding. That resourcing for education generally has not been to the expectations. We have a few systemic barriers. We have a few institutional barriers, primary, secondary, and the whole progression, and the curriculum. We have been teaching things to cram, things to do this, and these children with disabilities, you leave them behind. The child will go to school, you are asking them who was the first king of Kenya, and this child must cram who was the first
What
king of
happened?
Kenya,
Yeah.
the Ngoni migrations from Ghana to where Mau. This child must cram
Yeah.
because that's critical thinking. And most of children with learning disabilities, they can't cram that. And that means our education system has been punishing these children. But with the current new curriculum, where they give you a scenario and you think through the scenario, they give you a project, you play a game, you even, when you're answering, you're at liberty to think of your own. Say, think about your own situational scenario and answer as follows. So we are very, very hopeful that the strategic barriers, the several barriers that have been impeding inclusion of learners with disabilities, with the new curriculum being rolled out, we are going to have many learners come to the main grid, and the future will be bright for most of our learners with disabilities.
Thank you so much, Mr. Commissioner. Heading to you, Madam Joyce. We have had a long run of a full year of 365 days, and Labe has been doing its work diligently. What are those successes that you have attained in this intervention of seeing that children with disability receive their right to education, and that they are able to be part of the environment comfortably?
Okay. I would like to say, to begin from this, we have been doing it in Koboko, Terego, Obongi, which are in West Nile, then Gulu and Noya in northern Uganda. And I'll say that since 2022, we have been able to reach 343 children, differently abled children, because they would come at the home learning centers and then through the diagnostic camps with our partners like Katalema, Cheshire, actually helping them to have physical mobility to access home learning centers, but also primary schools. And so we have had 96 children who have got assistive devices, but more children who have been referred. Like the commissioner rightly said, you don't say the child is okay. So after the diagnostic camps, we have had referrals to Arua Hospital, to Gulu Hospital. We have cases like Jamal, a young boy who was in Koboko. I just can't forget the picture of that boy in my mind. A child with hydrocephalus who was not moving, who could not access the home learning centers because the parents were having trouble you have to ferry him. Every day there is a session at the home learning center. So it's either the grandmother or the mother or the younger siblings to take him. Sometimes they get tired of it. And then when this boy got the chair, you should know the first thing he said. He asked for a pen and a book. And he said, Sukulu, Sukulu, dancing around, very happy. It goes to show that even these children actually want to go to school, but they are limited. They are impeded from going to school because of the probably mobility challenges. So we have children like Jamal, who to me is a success.
Sure.
We may not be in position right now to touch very many, but just those few whom we are touching, and there are changes in their lives. The parents are better. There are parents who now say, I can now go to work. I can go to the garden. I can go to the market, knowing my child is able to have a wheelchair and play around with the others. Because other than that, they used to lock them in the house or just leave them there lying down because they could not. Even these children who have wheelchairs and they can now interact with the others is a success to us. So for us as Labe, touching these souls, like the commissioner calls them, and giving them an opportunity to access education services, to access play as their right, is a big success to us. Being able to reach out to these many parents in their parent support groups and getting them to start savings so they can have better livelihoods, so they can improve the livelihoods of their children, including the ones with disabilities, is a success to us.
Thank you so much. That has been a very nice round of applause for for Labe, because I feel like if lives like Jamal, I feel like that was a beautiful moment for him to know that he can now access school comfortably, and the fact that he's with his fellow peers, his fellow young souls. As we come to a conclusion, Mr. Commissioner, is there a word or two you would want to leave for our dearest viewers as we conclude?
We have an issue. Okay, we have B1, B2, B3 in terms of categorizing visual impairment, in terms of severity. Teachers, again, be courteous. When you report for first term next year in February, ask the learners how many are able to see the blackboard. Change the seating arrangement. It's not because Prosper has been first in class and is seated near the chalkboard, and therefore you keep that.
Oh
Be
my God.
sensitive. We are speaking disability inclusion.
That is so true.
Be sensitive, announce and say, hey guys, who has difficulty seeing me, seeing this on the chalkboard? And then modify. That's what we call disability inclusion. If you don't be mindful of modifications, if you don't be mindful on the need to address the special needs in whichever forum, meeting, school, health facility, police, post, etc., then we are condemning people whose crime is that they were created differently, and we are victimizing them because the crime they have committed is because they have a disability, which we can also get any minute, any second. Lastly, let's support agencies like Southern. Let's shoot as many best practices as possible. Most people tend to learn through visual, by seeing, by feeling, by touching these testimonies. If we got partners to support interventions such as this brilliant collabo between Label and Sauti, and we get partners on board, and we have these clips all over the place in all the 176 local governments, the community development officers viewing them, the head teachers meetings viewing them, the chief administrative officers, the DOs. I'm very sure together we can make a difference in the subject called disability inclusion, but more so meaningful inclusion of a child with disability in our education agenda.
Thank you so much, Mr. Commissioner.
Welcome.
Yes, please, Madam Joyce, as you conclude.
Well, as we conclude, I would like to say thank you very much to the government, represented by the commissioner, for accepting to partner with us and work with us. And I wanted to stress the point that he last made by saying what we need to really work on is to make sure that this information gets to the right people who need it. The policies are there, they're very supportive. There are grants that are running all over the place that the government wants these people to achieve. But how many of them are getting this information? And that is where our mission fits in, to make sure that people everywhere, especially in the rural communities, the refugee settlements, are actually accessing information and utilizing it. So we would like to continue our partnership with the Ministry of Gender, Ministry of Education, and NCDC to make sure that we get this information packaged and passed on to those communities where it will most make the difference that we want it to make. Other than that, I would like to say thank you very much. We want to continue this collaboration, and we'll continue calling on the government. And on behalf of LABE, I would like to say thank you very much for giving us a platform, an environment where we can actually create these beautiful innovations. We would like to get more support to ensure that what we are trying out, the innovations we are trying out, are seen and appreciated by the government and rolled out so that more children, more parents can access the services as they need to. So that is our prayer to the government. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It is a responsibility to each and every one of us to see that every person who is living with a disability is comfortable. As Commissioner stated, we can be the barrier to them. We can be the problem and not them being the problem. So let's look into ourselves as we're going in for this festive season. Let's be better people for 2025 and look to it that we support everyone accordingly. If you're a fellow child, if you're a Gen Z, if you're a worker, if you're a stakeholder, if you're a partner, everyone has a role that it's not only the government that will be able to work out or LABE, but it's a collective effort that we all need to come together, understand what disability inclusion is, and see that we play our parts accordingly, and see to it that Uganda is one of the nations that they can benchmark from when it comes to disability inclusion. I remain Nancy Elizabeth, aka Lizo, and this is Sauti Plus Media Hub.